Good evening and welcome to the August 12th Education Affairs Committee meeting for the Wallingford-Swarthmore School District. We welcome everyone this evening. I would like to begin by taking roll call with a motion to start the meeting first.
So moved.
Thank you. Okay, now we'll proceed with roll call. Our school board committee members, Miss Mary Jo Wachowski-Smith.
Present.
Miss Christine Dole.
Here.
Ms. Michelle Williams. Here. And Ms. Nanette Witze.
Here.
Thank you very much. Now we will proceed to our slideshow. As you can see, the mission and vision statements are there for your review as a refresher, as well as the role of our committee. Our meeting protocols, I will remind any members of the public that our committee meetings are conducted by Central Office Administration. Board member questions follow each agenda item. Community public comments and questions occur following the board member comments, and where possible, questions and comments will be addressed by the appropriate administrator. We do ask that questions and comments be reserved to strictly agenda topics only, and that speakers state their name and address for the record. And with that, we will get to our first agenda item for this evening. Our agenda items include 3 presentations, the first of which is our new professional staff orientation and induction. The second is our ESY program highlights. And the third is an update on the CHOP Tri-County Consortium. So I'm happy to present the first of the 3 presentations this evening. And we're beginning with the core elements of Wallingford-Swarthmore's orientation and induction program, which focuses on strengthening support and it is aligned with our strategic priorities. The orientation and induction program is designed to provide a strong foundation that supports our professionals as they grow, and with the ultimate goal of ensuring every student's success. The program is built upon a foundation of professional growth and support. It's designed to meet the diverse needs of our new staff. It's aligned with our strategic priorities, which include diversity, equity, belonging, collaboration, and continuous improvement. Our program components, the program begins tomorrow and will extend through Thursday. It's a 2-day orientation followed by a 2-year induction period, which includes one-to-one mentorship, regular cohort meetings, and peer observations and reflection. New enhancements this year, which we're pleased to tell you about, include 1, a name change. We have shifted from the old name, which was New Teacher Academy, to New Professional Staff Orientation and Induction, because we think it's more appropriate and inclusive of our new professional staff, which include plenty of non-teaching professionals. So we're happy about that. I know that Dr. McCullough is smiling. Yeah.
You're right.
Increased accessibility. So we will be using Schoology to serve as a centralized digital hub for all of the documents for both years of induction, which allows for real-time submission and review, which is great for all parties involved. The next highlight is extended support. We will now have that second full year of induction, which will include sessions with both department chairs and also the principals for that second year. And then we also have a leadership connection. We now are happy to report that we have built-in time into our schedule for all of the inductees to meet with the principals, both in year 1 and year 2, which I'm going to show you in just a moment, 4 times each of those 2 years. So 1 time each quarter, approximately. As far as our mentors, we select staff members who demonstrate the following characteristics: professionalism, positive attitude, content expertise, organizational skills, commitment to diversity, equity, and belonging, clear and efficient communication skills, strong coaching and feedback skills, innovative practices, and a collaborative spirit. The in-person time allocated for the induction program is as follows. So in year 1, we have the orientation, which I said begins tomorrow. So it's 2 full days, 7 hours. each day. So for a total of 14 hours. And then we have the after-school workshops, 6 of them at 75 minutes each. And then again, as I mentioned, building administrator time, they'll have 4 45-minute sessions after school with all their inductees. And for year 2, there are 4 sessions, which will be differentiated to reflect both the teaching and the non-teaching professionals. And those will be centered around book studies for both. And so we'll have 4 sessions to work through those book studies. There's journaling and some feedback forms that they'll complete along the way. And then again, there's those 4 sessions of building level administrator meetings. And then there's an optional final conference for closeout the end of year 2. There are constrictions based on the CBA as far as how many hours we can keep the teachers after school, which is why that one is optional. So this is the agenda for tomorrow, which you guys can take a look at that. We will be welcoming our school board vice president to help us welcome in the new inductees, followed by Dr. Johnston, and then a number of different folks from different departments. And then this is the agenda for day 2. This is the year 1 induction calendar. This is year 2 induction calendar, and this is again corresponds specifically. This one corresponds to the teaching professionals, the text that's going to be used for the teaching professionals. But we have another text that we're going to be using with the non-teaching professionals. So with the teaching professionals, the book is called what am I doing? A Handbook of Professional Learning Communities at Work by Solution Tree. And then for the non-teaching professionals, it's called Whole Child, Whole Life, 10 Ways to Better Help Kids Live, Learn, and Thrive. And that non-teaching community will be run through the Department of Student Services, whereas the teaching professionals will be run out of the Department of Teaching and English. So as we move forward, we are going to really adhere to the theme that I shared with you at the beginning, which is linked by learning. And we're going to support our new professional staff as they grow and collaborate and lead with confidence through full engagement in the orientation and induction program. As we integrate them into our priorities in all that we do, again, fostering our strategic priorities, make sure that our new inductees are participating actively in mentorship, sharing learning and reflection to strengthen the team and elevate student success, working together to create and sustain a thriving, supportive learning community, and commit to the ongoing enhancement of orientation and induction process. So we will be continuing to look at what works and what we can improve upon as we move into next year. And we will be doing that by collecting feedback throughout the year from participants and administrators, as well as collecting observational data, evaluation results, and student performance indicators. And with that, I'm done. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
No, thank you. Thank you for that. Ms. Williams, do you have any questions? How many new staff members do we have that are going to participate in this?
There's we expect that there's going to be about 35 there, but altogether there's about 44. So some don't have to come to orientation because they have been oriented elsewhere, or they've been in the district already serving some long-term stuff or on returning to the district.
I love that we have a plan, like 2 years, what we're doing, what we're going to use for feedback, meeting with principals. That sounds wonderful.
We're excited.
Yeah.
When you refer to inductees, are you talking about new staff,
The new professional staff.
professional staff?
this-
So
the
there's teachers.
Certificate staff. It's going to be like teachers, counselors, psychologists, nurses.
Okay. And what exactly is student performance indicators? What are you using?
So
What
when
is the metrics for that?
So we'll look at how the students assigned to these professionals do throughout the year, whether it be in the classroom or if they're behavioral health counselor. I'll just use that as the example. We might look at some of the PBIS information or some of the other information that we collect on how students are doing it. If it's somebody who's working with students and we're focused on attendance, we might look at, the impact that they had on students that way. So impact on students through both achievement, growth, and behavior. We'll look at them different ways depending upon what the job is that the person thinks.
Okay, so are TOSAs part of the inductee
Now,
or no?
no, the TOSAs are already our employees, so they've already have already been through an orientation and induction. They already all hold a level 2 certificate in Pennsylvania, and once you've achieved that, you don't keep going through it, even if you switch positions.
So this is a certificate program.
This is
And after 2 years, they get a
They get a
certificate.
letter of completion. It's required by the Pennsylvania Department of Education that every new professional staff member go through an induction period, which is now 2 years.
Okay.
It sounds great, thank you, and thank you as well for sharing the feedback piece with us. It's really good for us to hear just that there's ongoing feedback. That was sort of already, so thank you.
Thank you.
One question, first off, 2-year program, fantastic, and we even know what it is before we do 2 years, so that everyone knows where we're going. Love it, thank you for that. But my question is, I know it's somewhere I read in there, participate actively in mentorship. Do we have mentors included in this?
We do. Every new professional staff member has been assigned a mentor. And day 2 of the orientation is the day that they will spend a lot of time with the mentor.
Right.
And so the documentation that's completed, again, there's journaling and documentation, but they are required to meet with their mentors regularly. They are required the mentor observes them teaching, and then the mentor helps them select a master teacher to observe. And then they meet to have an exchange of ideas and to collaborate. So it's a really great partnership between the mentor and the mentee.
And it's structured and mentors are paid.
Correct. Yes, to both.
Thank you.
So let me,
Ms. Albert? Okay. All right. Next.
so the mentors have already been selected from senior staff or
Correct.
staff that have gone through that checklist?
Yes, that's what I was just gonna flip this up. I was just gonna flip back to that. Yes, so the mentors are selected by the principals, so they're asked to serve as mentors by the principals. And these are the characteristics that they look for in the professional. And once they agree to it, then we work with the Human Resources Department to make sure that, they're set up to serve as the mentor. And then on day 2 of the induction, we will pull the mentors out and we will do some professional development with them separate from the new staff. And then we will bring them together. And then they are designated, they're allotted an amount of time. See that there, but if you look at, see where it says mentor workshop, that's where we'll meet with the mentors. And then we have the break, and then after that is mentor meetings. I think that says 10:30 to 12. That's where the mentors and the teachers will meet, and they'll start to plan out those first days of school. So lesson planning and looking at materials and all those things.
So it's one mentor per teacher?
Correct.
So how many mentors do you have? 30?
We have more than 30 because I think we have 34 people that have to go through orientation and year 1 induction, so about 30.
There can be a situation where one teacher can mentor two mentees. So we might have a little bit of that, but typically it is always a one-on-one, one teacher is the one mentor.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can I just chime in with a couple of things? Dr. Baddick, I just want to thank you for your work on this. This is Dr. Baddick's first year taking on this induction work and planning this out and working closely with Dr. Salini to make all of this happen. And it's no small undertaking. So just all of the planning forward and really seeing how all these pieces fit together really just matters so much to get our teachers started right, to get them started well. And I'm just really grateful for the work that you put into this. Would you mind just calling out the 1 to 2 p.m. going back a slide real quick?
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
that's exciting. Okay. So let me see. Okay, so if we look down, this is day 2, so this is going to be Thursday, and I'm so glad you said that. In the afternoon, we are going to be doing what has now become sort of a tradition here, the WSSD tour. And Andy Benzing, high school principal, has volunteered to be our tour guide. And everyone that knows Andy knows that he is very animated, so it'll prove to be a wonderful trip around the district. So we're all looking forward to that, especially the 2 of us, because we haven't been through it yet.
Right, so we're joining the tour, because we really want to model how much we care about the community, right? And that we need to show our teachers how much we value this particular community, what makes it unique. We're so glad we don't think it's better than any. And then, yeah, or it'll be, we're getting a bus, we're all gonna load onto the school bus and go around. From Rose Valley to Rutledge, so we look forward to it. The final thing that I just wanted to mention is that Dr. Baddick and I have a commitment to making sure that we are getting evaluation feedback from all professionals that we. And so, well, earlier in the presentation, Dr. Baddick talked about what's changing for induction and mentoring for this school year. The thing that underlies all of that she mentioned on the last slide is that we are getting evaluative feedback. Dr. Pratt is leading that work. We're making sure that we look at the evaluative feedback after day 1 to determine what needs to change for day 2. And that's just really something that Dr. Baddick has baked into all of this planning, is to make sure that we really land this well for our teachers. They are our consumers. They're the ones that feel the most out of this. And this is a shift for us. This is a good shift for us to take on, really listening to our educators and what kind of feedback they have for us about their professional learning, so we can make it as authentic and meaningful as possible. So I'm really excited about how that's also a change across the board, and a change for induction and mentoring specifically. So excited to look at that feedback tomorrow. So thank you, Dr. Baddick.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. So next on the agenda will be our presentation from Dr. McCullough, an update on CHOP, Tri-County School Mental Health Consortium.
We weren't entirely sure of the order. Yeah, so I'm going to talk about our CHOP, Tri-County School Mental Health Consortium that the district is a part of. Before I go into that, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the importance of community-based partnerships. When you're looking at sort of the gold standard of any behavioral health program, it always highlights the need for community-based partnerships. We had a limited partnership with Crozier in the past. Obviously, that has been a shift. And so these are just some of the folks that can be involved in a consortium or in partnerships. The thing that's really important about them is they typically focus on evidence-based interventions, and it's always a cost-sharing model. So with Crozier, we paid for a counselor to be in our buildings, but it also entitled us to some services through Crozier. Our partnership currently with CHOP is completely at no cost to the district. So these are all the folks that are involved. It's sort of CHOP is created this consortium. It involves the CCIU, the DCIU, the MCIU, and CHOP. Specifically for CHOP, it is the policy lab, who are sort of the researchers at CHOP, working together with the Department of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry and Behavioral Sciences. They have this 4-year grant to run this consortium. In terms of the intermediate units, they serve as the liaison. So you saw on that, the graphic of the different folks that were involved. Our district is involved through our liaison of the DCIU. There's currently 9 districts within Delaware County that are participating in the consortium, and we're happy to be one of them. So the goals for the Mental Health Consortium is to really establish some of the already established frameworks of multi-tiered systems of support that are in our schools, to have CHOP as behavioral health experts really get in there, but leverage a system that's already in place. It really helps to improve access to mental health treatment, because this way it impacts students that are in school, not necessarily students who parents made an appointment for them to see a mental health specialist. The idea is to strengthen school and district capacity to implement, evaluate, and sustain Tier 1 and 2 school mental health services. So it's just really an added support. We've talked at length about our Tier 1 and our Tier 2 supports,
And this is just an added structure, and we'll talk specifically what intervention we're going to be working through this year. So here's the timeline. In 23-24 was just a exploration phase, and we really talked about like what are the needs that we're seeing. We worked with the IUs, we worked with CHOP. It was really a lot of information sharing that was, I think, helpful on both sides. Last year, they piloted 2 initiatives. One was leveraging data learning collaborative, and our middle school participated in that initiative, where the high school participated in what we call IPT-AST, which is a terrible name if you're trying to market something. But it's interpersonal psychotherapy, adolescent skills training, even more terrible if you're trying to market that to students. So we're working on branding of that. This year, we're only going to be running the IPT-AST, and we're going to run that at both the middle school and the high school. Couple reasons for that. The leveraging data collaborative that we did last year, it was an opportunity to share with other districts and also get input from CHOP. But you were to come to these meetings, and they were monthly meetings that were somewhat time consuming, and it was to kind of share ideas out. We did a lot of sharing out, and I don't feel like we got a lot of receiving. Quite frankly, we were sort of honest with CHOP about that. Additionally, this group, this interpersonal psychotherapy group, is a service directly to students. So we're prioritizing that. So we're going to be running one of those groups at both the middle and the high school. So this is just a little summary, and I won't read the whole slide to you about IPT-AST, but it has a really strong evidence base, and it's a group counseling model. The way we're going to run it is through a partnership of a school counselor, a behavioral health counselor, and then CHOP does training of those 2 folks, and then ongoing consultation as they start to run the groups. Additionally, it can include parents. If parents say, I want to know about this, CHOP is willing to kind of come in and say, this is what this intervention is. And that also helps to open up parents to other resources that might be available through CHOP. So it yields a lot of positive outcomes, which I have listed there. I don't need to read it to you. The program for students is 1 to 2 individual and that is a lot of assessment and screening where we get students to understand their interpersonal profile. Then there's these 8 group sessions, and then mid-group session. So, and there's throughout the time is consultation with the CHOP professionals. And that's it for our CHOP Tri-County Mental Health Consortium. That also is a mouthful. None of this rolls off the tongue, unfortunately. But any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. We did meet with CHOP last week. We had a really positive meeting. We've identified the school counselor and behavioral health counselor pairs at both the middle and the high, and everybody's kind of ready to go.
I have 2 questions. One, how did the students get identified to be in this program?
Yeah, so that would come through the same way as our tier 2 are eligible for any tier 2. So it can come through a data referral, which is the behavioral referrals. This really comes typically through our universal screener data, because it's really for students with much more intrinsic behaviors rather than the extrinsic upward behaviors, which we identify typically through the Swiss system. So that's a way. The other way is through teacher referral and counselor referral. And then we kind of go back and we look at, so we kind of look at some other things. But just the same way you get identified for any tier 2 intervention, this would now just be added to our tier 2 menu.
And is there a cap to the number of students that can be involved?
It is 10 per group, and we can run this twice throughout the year. If we had more people involved, if we had, like, say, 4 school counselors, 4 behavioral health counselors, you could run as many as you wanted. We don't have that number of staff, and quite frankly, I think a lot of the needs of our students can be met by lower level intervention, particularly with some depressive and anxiety symptoms. It's kind of a specific presentation. and our students, we definitely have candidates for it.
And my last question.
Yeah,
So you said it was a 4-year grant and we're on year 3, is that correct?
we are.
So next year, what will happen to this?
Yeah, so I mean, the beauty of it is that we'll have 4 people trained, 2 at the high school, 2 at the middle school. Once you're trained and you've had a year of consultation, you can go ahead and implement.
Yeah.
So that's why it is sort of a nice thing where it's not CHOP providing a direct service, it's us providing a direct service. So I think that's one of the other reasons why I think this is a really good system. Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, you got it. Anybody else?
I'm curious, with using CHOP. What happens to the tier 3 student that needs to be placed? Maybe because of out of our scope, out of our A grade psychiatric needs.
Sure.
Or behavior needs that can't be met by
In a school setting.
in a school
yeah.
setting. How is,
So this,
because you're only talking about tier 1 and
so this would be
tier
tier 2, kind of a higher level tier 2. And we certainly have students at a tier 3 level that we would continue to work with community-based providers to find, if you're referencing like inpatient or partial care, we still do that. We can still provide our own tier 3 interventions internally. This isn't sort of a broad menu option. This is for a select group of students, but it is a group of students that we've had a little bit of a trouble finding an intervention for. But yeah, there's definitely students whose needs exceed what this intervention could accomplish. So it's a good question, but we still work with families in terms of partial and inpatient, sure. Yeah.
Just 2 questions. So so does the consortium offer other sort of interventions? Like what drove the, what data or process drove the decision to, utilize this particular one? And how many students are served, would you say? Just curious.
So last year we had, we originally had 12, we ended up serving, I think 8. There was 2, the consortium offers those 2 different options, leveraging data, which we,
Those are the 2 options.
those are 2 options. Yep, that's what you got. And so last year we had 8. There are families who declined, there are students who declined. Part of the reason I think we did hone in on this one is sometimes in a tier 2 meeting, we'll say, okay, we have students with behavioral referrals, and the goal is to reduce behavioral referrals. It's pretty easy to track. But we have other students who are showing symptoms of depression or anxiety. Their universal screener has some red flags, and that's a little harder to come up with an intervention, and it's certainly harder to track the data on. Data tracking is built in. This is an evidence-based program that's already built in, sort of that data source. So this was kind of a missing piece of our tier 2, and it's a good way to add on to it. Yeah, but we have only the 2 choices for now.
Thank you. And I think our kids really benefit from this program. I mean, this is that this is available to be offered to middle school and high school this year who need this. So would this be 10 in each building?
It could be, yes.
Yeah,
yes.
that's great.
Yeah.
It up to.
Yep.
Up to.
Yeah, and we'll
and
offer it to
right.
as many as we can. I think we can do 2 cohorts, but we have to kind of see the timing of that, which means it could be 20 in each building, 10 in the beginning, 10 in the fall. Sometimes, it depends on getting parents to agree, getting students to agree. So there's
A
some,
lot, yes,
Yeah.
I'm sure there's some roadblocks.
there are. Yeah.
But thank you for really making sure that this is in place and the agreement with CHOP and I mean, because this goes through a lot of steps. If CHOP is going through the IU, going to you, It takes a lot of coordination, so I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep, we're coordinating.
Okay, thank you.
Great.
Thanks very much. I'm just glad that our folks are gaining the skills and will be able to, continue to do this after the break, so.
Yeah, it does build some capacity, so that is nice. Great. We'll move to back
Thank
to
you.
you. Sorry for the false start there.
Yeah, it's okay. Hi, everybody. Great to be back here, in what has become a tradition really, to talk about extended school year programming. I'm very pleased to have I think a smoother, presentation this year as compared to last year as well. Our program this year ran from Monday to Thursday, June 23rd to July 17th. That's 16 days. That's for all students. Then we ran an additional 1 week, 4-day week, for the more sort of impaired students. So I also want to just be clear that when I'm talking tonight about our extended school year program, I'm talking about the district's program. We do have students who are attending. You were just alluding to that. I think Ms. Witt said we have some students who are attending programming in out-of-district placements. They typically have their own extended school year programming, but I'm really talking about what we here internally provided. So, just to sort of lay the groundwork and paint the picture for you, just 3 real points. Extended school year, or ESY, it's really necessary to secure, excuse me, a free and appropriate public education, or a FAPE. Just to recall that, this is for students who really need it. They need it because they're thought to be the most impaired among students with disabilities. And that's really as evidenced by the fact that they would regress as a result of having this large 10-week recess, or summer vacation. Legally, our mandate's really to prevent or mitigate that regression, and to make kind of progress in those instances when a student qualifies because they're on the verge of maybe mastering a skill, but that long summer recess sort of might prevent that. They're right on the verge. So, when we're talking about ESY services, that this is going to include direct instruction. It's also going to include related services such as occupational therapy, speech, physical therapy, so on and so forth. The federal law around extended school year is rather silent. So it talks a little bit about what it is and how it relates to FAPE, but it really leaves it to the state to sort of make that determination. So, I'm going to offer that when we are determining which students qualify for extended school year, we've done a lot of work in our department to sort of shore that up. I'll talk a little bit about that, but I've already stated, and I think that's really worth repeating, that it's really for our most impacted learners. So it's also, and I said this last year, if you recall, it's also very important to sort of state, but it's not. It's not summer school. It's also not summer school for students with IEPs. And I think that's important to sort of set the expectations for our community. It's really highly targeted and specifically based on a student's individual needs as in their IEP. So it's very feasible. For instance, if a student has 5 goals in their IEP, they may qualify for 2 of them or 3 of them, not necessarily every one of their goals, if that makes sense. And the state really outlines 7 different factors. I'm not going to go into what each of those are. I've talked about them with you before. Their regression, their recoupment, that's sort of how, like I said, I'm not going to go into it, but here I am. Recoupment is sort of how quickly you are to kind of recoup those skills, right? Regression and recoupment. And then mastery, that's the extent to which a student has mastered and then consolidated a skill right when that vacation or that summer recess is about to take place. Self-sufficiency, independence, success of interruptions, and severity of disability. I think what I'd like to say about this is, these overlap quite a bit, right? So when you think about severity of disability, a student who has a very difficult time with successive interruptions, that student, it is most likely to be a student with a significant disability. And the state really speaks to this in that they refer to this group as the Armstrong group. These are students in our programming who are participating in low incidence classroom. So you're thinking of our AS programs, our emotional support programs, and our life skills programming. Those are the students who we think of first and foremost. It doesn't mean those are the only students we are saying are eligible for extended school year. So in my capacity as a director, I've really sought to ensure that ESY eligibility is reserved for those neediest students. And I think that's also important when we're sort of looking at the data for the district. In 2021, we were finding more than half of the students eligible, which is a lot. That's when we're thinking of our low incidence disability programming. So we've really worked with staff, and they've taken to it in terms of kind of tightening up those criteria. But we've made steady progress at sort of decreasing that number. I do want to be clear, our goal is not to asymptotically reduce this to zero, right? We want students to be eligible for extended school year. We just want to make sure that there's the criteria are sort of tightly adhered to, so that when students are participating in those programming in the summer, they're getting what they need. I also want to point out that in 2024, that was a year ago, we had some real meaningful opportunity to reflect on some of those practices. Much of that reflection, I think, revolved around the communication, right? How we were communicating for these things that I've already stated, but what our programming was going to look like. There's a long history. I am very familiar that this community has a long history with swim clubs. And extended school year certainly has sort of overlapped in some of that area. But again, when trying to sort of drill down on what ESY is intended for, it's very serious business, and we want to make sure that it's aligned with students' IEP goals. So I think one of the things that we did that I think went a long way was at every student who qualified at their annual IEP meeting, we gave a one-page document that said, these are the dates, this is what it is not. Much of that language was taken right from the statute, so it wasn't highly controversial. And then, one of the things that I saw progress with was I ran a online program. My department ran an online program, and our last presentation of the school year was about summer and disabilities, and we had very little turnout. And I was really discouraged. And some of the feedback I had was, well, I think actually people kind of know what to expect this year. And I sort of took that as like a good sign, right? That people went into the ESY program this summer kind of knowing what to expect. So let's talk about a student overview here. Again, I do want to state that although a student may qualify for extended school year, it's not mandatory, right? Like such as maybe summer school might be. So we can typically expect fewer students to attend related, compared to how many qualified. That said, we really do want to ensure maximal participation. When a student qualifies, it's our recommendation that they participate. So we had 180 students who qualified, 108 attended, which is pretty much in alignment with last year's numbers. And when students did commit to attend at all, that corresponded with about 89% attendance rate, which is good. This is also the second year that we had a split program where we had programming at Wallingford Elementary School. That's not a coincidence. That's where we house our low incidence programs for elementary students. And then we also had our secondary programming here at the middle school. There's some advantages there. If a student is coming up and they're matriculating to the middle school anyway, it's an awesome opportunity for them to see the building without it being at full capacity, right? And it's also great for our facilities department, who is not taking a lot of specialized furniture design around little bodies at the elementary school and bringing it over here. I know it's not very far away, but it is, it's still resources that are dedicated to that. And then, also I'm going to actually get into a little bit of, we did make an adjustment with our times, but let's first talk about our staff. I would like you to think of this as sort of three buckets, if you will. We have WSSD employees, those are staff who are employed by us during the typical school year. Non-WSSD employees, those are staff who are not employed by us during the typical school year, and then returning versus non-returning, people who have worked in our ESY programming before versus new, right? So, we are kind of split down the middle between WSSD employees and non-WSSD staff. This is not a good or a bad thing. I fully recognize that once you have worked a full school year, you're tired and you need a break or you need something new maybe in the summer. And so, there's no judgment with that. But we will kind of talk a little bit about that in a moment. And in terms of returning versus new, this is, I think, there is a little bit of judgment on my part about this. It's good to have more returning folks because it's a sign that they want to continue to come here. And we're really almost at a 2-to-1 ratio there in terms of returning staff members versus brand new staff members. In terms, I want to mention a little bit about our social skills. In previous years, our social skills workshop was really held in the afternoon and was instructed by school counselors as sort of a separate component. Some students, as I mentioned, can qualify just on some goals and they might not qualify on all goals. It previously was designed so that students who qualified under a social skills goal, they were the only students who got social skills. We really kind of talked a lot about this as a department and said, I think this is really aligned with our district's mission in terms of PDIS, which is there's a lot of opportunity here to do tier 1 instruction, to embed this social skills into what every student who's participating in ESY is getting. And that does, as I mentioned about the time, going to 1 o'clock for secondary and 1:30 for elementary, it made for a longer day, whereas prior to, in previous years, we had a much shorter day. So it made for a little bit of a longer day, but it was just a great opportunity to sort of embed social skills instruction that's for every student. Talk a little bit about community-based instruction. So CBI is really experiential instruction. It's in an authentic environment where students work on real life skills in order to practice meaningful skill acquisition they often need for transition planning. So this is based off of students' IEP goals. Most typically, this is for a secondary student, often, let's say participating in a life skills programming where they are sort of within sight of matriculating from school age outright. So this was, this is really where that previous conversation was about well, when we're sending students out to the community, are we doing it because it's recreational or are we doing it because it's aligned with goals? So we, again, did a lot of work to ensure that the CBI experiences were aligned with goals. So examples would be going to the ACME. Students created shopping lists to buy supplies for the ESY classrooms, which was nice. Also, snacks, paper towels, those sorts of things. Working with a budget to do that. Practicing, paying for purchases. Interacting with a sales clerk, those kinds of things. At Target, students purchase items for themselves. Or from a shopping list that their parents helped them with. They practice finding items from their list, paying for their purchases, so on and so forth. And finally, in terms of future considerations, again, at the expense of repeating myself, this year went well. It was very smooth. I think it's always important to reflect on, what are the tweaks that we could really think about? There was some feedback that I received in terms of why is it that some students are receiving a 16-day program versus a 20-day program? What are those criteria that you make that determination on? I may kind of think I know them inside my head, but I think that's not the same thing as articulating that to our community. So, it begs a question as we think about this in the future. Is this something that we want to commit resources to making it a longer program or just consolidating it, but making it sort of the same for everyone, as opposed to sort of many different programs for many different students, which can run the risk, of course, of being confusing. I think that we always have continued work to do in terms of that adherence to the eligibility criteria to ensure that the students who are found eligible for extended school year are in fact our neediest students. And they are most impacted using the criteria that the state puts out. And that way, we have less confusion when we are teaching, where we've had it in the past where some of the feedback has been, some of the students are working on lower skills than my child. And, sometimes that's because we need to question whether all those students should be eligible in that classroom. So I think we've done great work, but we can continue to work on that with our staff. And we absolutely want to continue to work on the balance between fun and education. We of course had a return of the puppies this year. I don't know if anybody was around. It was a fun time. We did tie-dye, we had a sensory musical petting zoo, which was really cool. So we wanna, we wanna continue to find that balance. And the reason that's important is not every one of these things does in fact align with every single student's goals. However, when you're looking at those attendance rates, we want to maximize that. So anything we can do to engage a student, particularly a neurodivergent student, so that they're coming to school when it's 88 degrees outside and their friends in the neighborhood may not have school, that's a good thing. That's an opportunity that we want to capitalize on, right? Again, looking at those retention, we want to explore ways in which we can get as many WSSD employees to participate because that's familiarity with our students. And we want to get as many returning people as possible. The really nice thing I would add about having fresh faces in our district is, if for nothing else, just looking at the sort of the business side of this, it's like basically a 4 to 5 week interview, right? We're getting to see people who are like, hey, this person may be looking for a position. We have a vacancy here, so it's an awesome opportunity to sort of see staff. And every year that I've been here, we have taken staff from ESY. So that is great. And as mentioned, just always opportunities to sort of simplify the structure. This helps sort of all of our departments, but first and foremost, it helps our community kind of understand it better. So it'll maximize their desire to participate as well. Any questions for me?
I don't have any. This sounds terrific, and thank you for your work on it.
I just want to say that I see the difference and I recognize the input, and I'm glad that we took a turn to make it more inclusive and diverse for students. Good job.
Was this the second year that the social skills were embedded as opposed to
Yes.
targeted just to, so this was the second?
Yes, apologies, yeah.
Okay,
Thank
I
you.
just wondered, what we know about how it was received, how did families receive it, because it sounds like it lengthened the day, for kids, and I just wondered about the feedback about it.
Yeah, I thank you for that question. I don't know last year when the day lengthened as predominantly as a result of that we asked for feedback specifically about the length of day. So it would be, you'd be relying on my intuition.
Just in general,
Yeah.
I just wondered, it sounds like you must have gotten positive feedback because this is the second year we did it.
Yeah.
Just curious.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think the feedback we have received from students, as well as our parents is I think having the social skills, whether it lengthens the day or does not, mimics the school year, and the PBIS initiatives, and particularly around tier 1. So I think that it kind of adds a comfort. And again, remember, like, if you are a student who qualifies at NPE or at SRS, you're going to West. So that's a new environment, and that's apt to cause stress. So I think kind of falling back on those foundational tier 1, what are the behaviors we expect in a positive, predictable manner? That's just a good thing for kids. So I think it's worth the added day for sure. And I actually want to clarify that I do think we have, and I can find this out for you, Ms. Dolay, I think we may have feedback from staff. Now that I say it out loud, about the lengthened day, about whether that sort of influences their desire to return. I think there's some reason to believe it could go either way. You may want your full afternoon, but I think the feedback we had prior to 2 years ago spoke to sort of it being worth my while to be there for X number of hours, if that makes sense.
Well, how much of an increase was it? Like a half hour? Wasn't it till noon?
We previously went 4 hours, and if this is going, let's do my math here. If we're going, 9 to 12 is 3, so it's 4.5. Yeah, it's half an hour difference. I think the caveat, what I would say that makes it a little bit more confusing is once you have lunch, it kind of in the day that is another complexity. So we have to ensure, for instance, that students who are eligible for a free and reduced lunch are able to get that. So it's not a small adjustment.
It sounds like worth it. It sounds like what learned about it with kids as well, is that it was a worthwhile change.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that the puppies came back.
Perennial
I
favorite.
was wondering.
Yeah, those puppies work hard, I'll tell you.
They were not on the payroll.
Thank you. I think ESY program sounds wonderful. I am trying to talk my daughter into moving here.
Good.
Probably not.
Keep us posted.
She likes the mountains. So, yeah, great. So thank you.
Major, if I could, I just want to give a shout out to the quality of the programming that I saw this summer. I had a chance to come to the middle school when puppies were here, which was fantastic. And I do want to give a shout out to the director of our middle school program now, because works here at the middle school. We just ran a really solid program, a joyous program for our students. I got to see how the staff welcome the students every morning in the middle school as they came in, and it's just the type of environment that we want for our children. So that was just so positive. And at Wes, huge shout out to Sierra Bogstanish, led a tremendous program there. This, I want to give her this special shout out because she really stepped up to take this on this year and led a tremendously successful program. I just want to paint for you a picture of what this embedded social skills model looks like. There are many components to it. It runs all throughout the day. But Dr. Sandberg and I went a day when she was leading a scavenger hunt with the school. So the students all had their, their things they were hunting for. And they she made it a social experience for the students. So they had to stop and ask questions of each other, ask questions of their peers. And then she was also a resource for them. And to see her connection with the students, it was just so deep and meaningful, and just really again, everything we want for a child. That she really brought to bear and made it just such a positive, joyous thing for our students. So it was great to see it firsthand. What does this embedded model look like? And for the students, it's just fun. But they don't know that this is something. When learning is just happening naturally, that's maybe the best type of learning. So yeah, right. So really just want to give my additional congratulations for a really well-run summer and the commitment to continue this improvement. Thank you, so thank you. Thank you.
Well, with that brings our evening to a conclusion. Pastor Smith, you want to close out our meeting?
Did we do one thing we forgot to approve the minutes?
Oh,
From
yes,
last-
thank you so much. I would
Okay.
like a motion to approve the minutes which have already been shared with board members prior to this evening. If you could do that, please.
And I'm going to abstain because I wasn't here in May.
So moved. Thank you. And we also forgot to mention that our next meeting will be September 9th, 6 o'clock, same place. And we will share out the information on the website prior to the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Good work. That's really powerful.
Bishop,
Yeah.
I was so close.
I didn't say 45.
Is that your goal? 45?
45.